Hello, I'm Ross Eberlin from Bluesound Professional. I'm the product manager, and I'm going to do some CP200 level 1 training today. And I'm going to begin with a short presentation with a little bit of background on the CP200. And then I'm going to continue on with really a hands-on demo of doing a project with the CP200. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We will entertain questions via the questions window in the GoToWebinar session there. And Reza's along today to assist in coordinating those questions. We'll do our best to try and answer some during the session, but we may end up with most of them at the end of the session so we don't lose continuity. But anyways, I might as well begin now, and we'll go right in. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Reza, you can let me know when my screen comes up okay in the presentation. I think I can see it too, though. There, I think we've got it up now. Okay, so let's go into the CP200 and do some little bit of training today. Just a little bit of background about Bluesound Professional for those of you who may have just been recently made aware of our product line. We have a complete line of really purpose-built streaming audio hardware for commercial spaces, ones that are rack-mounted using balanced I/O, and also a lot of PoE speakers and wall-mount controllers. And just a little in-depth quick look at our brand architecture. We have some streaming units, the 100 and 400, and we have some streamer amplifiers. And then we have our PoE speakers and our in-ceiling passive and active units along with a subwoofer, and then our wall mount controllers. I'll get in a little bit more detail about the wall mount controllers in the next slide. Just to help everyone understand the product positioning of our CP wall mount controllers. Most of you probably are aware of the CP100. We've had that for several years. I call it kind of a constrained wall mount controller where it offers 5 presets, up and down volume along with play pause, sort of a constrained unit. Great for maybe a bartender. You don't want the bartender to mess around, if you will, with the Bluesound app, pick music that's not approved, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's been pretty popular, PoE powered, pretty easy to set up through a configuration app. On the right-hand side of the extremes of the CP300, which is an Android tablet, offers the ability to run the full Bluesound controller app. Probably better suited for the management side of things because you have full access to the app, grouping, ungrouping, and picking music services and selections. And what we found, we had a lot of users who or requests for maybe something in between, maybe a few more features than what the CP100 offered, but yet something that constrained the end user from just going all crazy on fooling around with the app. And you know, I've run across again a customer this week that just had issues with that, where there's no control over the end user. So CP200 is a user configurable device. Think of it as, you know, going into your office supply shop and buying a whiteboard. You bring the whiteboard home and it's completely blank, and you add the markings on it, whether you want to turn it into a calendar or want to turn it into a list. You know, you're really configuring to what you want. And so the CP200 allows you to configure buttons on a screen and do what you wish with it with our Bluesound devices. So you're going to see lots of different applications and things today. I'm going to take you through, and we're going to design a simple project. And well, the other item I want to explain is really, well, first of all, about the product, that it is configurable from a UI perspective and a logic control perspective. We're using APIs, and on the next slide, I'll talk about our public API document, but when you are pressing a button on this device, you're going to be actually sending out an API to the Bluesound players for it to do something. The neat thing about the CP200, it also provides the ability to have active button feedback. So whereas on the CP100, you press a button, you didn't know which preset it was remained active on. With the CP200, you can actually show between the pause button and the presets what's active. Again, it's powered by PoE, which makes it a very simple connection. And it comes with a handy mounting bracket. I have to apologize, one thing on our installation guide on our webpage, I'm getting it changed because I mistakenly talked about centimeters in its measurements, and it's actually millimeters. So it uses a 95 by 95 millimeter hole that needs to be placed in the wall for the mounting bracket, or 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. So I'm getting that fixed. Apologize. I guess sometimes I get confused myself. The whole device is configured using a tool called Easy Accomplish, which is again on the web page. It's a software tool, and we'll be using that extensively in my demo. And we have made available, I should say, sample templates on the web page. So instead of you having to start from scratch, we've got some sample templates there that you can use and modify. So once you've learned some things today, you can turn yourself loose on maybe re-watching our video, which we will be uploading from today, and learning how to do my simple project I'm going to show you, and then you can go to town on some of those projects that you can download and go crazy on doing your own thing. Just a little bit of information point. We just did a final QA check on the CP200s on Monday, and the units are now in supply in Tilburg warehouse and our North American Pickering warehouse. In the future, we'll also be stocking these in our Asian warehouse. But right now, because it was our first run, I had them all brought to Pickering for review. But anyways, we're on a go here, and we're ready to ship. I want to make you aware of some of the resources that are available, because this is key. This is a product that when you open up the box, there's no project loaded. You need to do some work, and so you need to get ready here. I want you to be able to get to the CP200 webpage, find out all about it, and write it. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see the resources that we've loaded up. We have an install guide that talks about how to mount this and connect the PoE. We have a data sheet with some of the specs. The configuration application, that's our Easy Accomplish config and project software for PC only. And we have sample template projects that you can download, various zip files, and they can give you some project ideas. And then I have a reference guide in the last point there, which just gives us some background to the Easy Accomplish that you can just have open as you go through and use that piece of software. And then another very important piece, the third item there, is the API document. So that's our Bluesound app API document. You need to download that, because those APIs are what you're going to be using to have the CP200 control your Bluesound device. So make sure that's downloaded and ready. Take a look at it and learn how the APIs are put together. You'll see some examples though during my demo, but there's lots of other machine controls, etc., that are available in our public API document. So make sure you get that. I just want to make a few special notes just to set the table here for the CP200. I want you to make sure you use those CP200 resources, sample projects, etc. The CP200 is designed for you to create the UI and logic that arrives basically with no project enabled. We expect you will design your customer's project, and we will support your projects that you have a specific question with. So if you've done a project and you have a problem, you can't figure out why it's not working, then what you need to do is send the appropriate folders in a zip file to our support at bluesoundprofessional.com. And when you look and when you've saved the project, you will see the config folder, module folder, UI folder, and the actual project, in this case, lesson6.ea. So if you need support, we need that information so we can recreate your scenario and try and help you out if you have a problem. But again, we're expecting that you're going to learn how to use this configuration software and create these projects. With that, I'm going to get right into the tutorial now. So I'm going to change my screen and we'll go into the easy accomplish software. I'm going to start right off of at the beginning, and we're going to end up with a project by the time I get done. So just hang on while I switch screens. So here's the easy accomplish software that I've opened up. Again, it's downloaded off our web page, and we're going to go to new and we're going to create a new project. So the first thing is I got to name this project, and we're going to go lesson 1 part 2. So I did a lesson 1 earlier today. We're going to pick the processor. Processor we're using is the one at the top of the list. It's a 4-inch 720 pixel by 720 pixel unit. And then we're going to go and discover the unit that I have attached on the same subnet. And there it is right there, 10.0.0.149. So I'm going to select that. And then a path. So then this is where I'm going to create a folder for storage. Select that, and now every time we save it, it's going to be save all the appropriate support files in that folder. So when you bring up the program, this is what you get. You get a big black square on the screen. And one of the first things I like to do, of course, is we have a UI design and logical design. We start with the UI design, and I'm going to change the background color. Because I've done a few of these projects, I have a lot of preset colors. You need to double click on these color boxes, and you can see I can change the background into whatever. I could have, you can do whatever on this background color. You can even do gradients, for example. So you can see there's a gradient. But today I'm just going to do white. So there's my background. The next thing to do is you say, well, it's not very interesting. We need some buttons on there. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to drag some buttons on. So I went over to the component, and with my left key on my mouse, I just dragged it over to the page, and there it is. What I like to do is importantly, for a logic standpoint, is name this. We're going to create a few functions today. The first one being a preset 1. I'm going to name it preset 1. I'm going to have an interlock ID, which allows the preset 1 to work in conjunction with a pause button we're going to create, so you know which one is active. I'm going to also, when this button is active, I want to know that, so I'm going to create a special border when it's active. I'm going to do 10, and I'm going to do a blue on that. I'm going to change the font color to white, and then I'm going to go back to its normal state. I meant to change that to white. And down, importantly, on the right-hand side here, the action logical number. I need to say what logic number this is. In this case, this is going to be button 1. And so now that button is all set up from a UI standpoint. And just to be fast and to keep Graeme happy, I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to create some other buttons. And I'm trying to be as fast as possible today. We can adjust these, as you can see, in a sec. I'm just going to rename this. This one is going to be volume volume down, and I'm going to put the text in here so it appears. We've already got the right colors because we copied that. We should have the right. The only thing is I don't want activity to show on this. It's a momentary button, so I'm going to take that to 0. And this one is going to be a pause button. I remembered as I do this, I forgot to do something on the first button, which I knew I would forget. The one thing you have to do is you got to keep changing this logical number. So this is button 2, and this one is button 3, and this one is going to be button 4. And you'll see where that works out later. So I got the pause done. Now this one I need to rename. This one's going to be volume. Do a short form because it'll fit better on the next screen. And this is volume up. And the only thing I have to do is I've got to turn this active one down. So that doesn't show up. One other thing I'd like to do is one opportunity you have here is to bring images in. So you can do like branding, etc., which is kind of neat. You can sort of customize it to fit your customer. If you're working with a large chain or whatever, you can put their logo on it. Integrators can put their phone numbers along the bottom for contact information. All you have to do is go into this little mountain here, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to bring in this little coffee shop. And away you go, there's your image here. You can make it whatever size you want. One thing to remember from a sort of a brand perspective, just be careful when you're playing around with brand logos. You can goof it up like this, and then that may not go over too well with your customers. So at the end of the day, when you finish this UI design, you just got to need to pay attention really to the design side of things. I was paying a lot of attention to technical concerns, and then I realized once when I saw a company's project that they hadn't paid any attention to the alignment of objects, to keeping the brand icon correctly, and so I realized that is an important piece. So the neat thing about these buttons is you can align them down to the pixel. So there's also guidelines to keep things straight, but in terms of spacing and that, you can again use width, heights, and X and Y position and make sure the buttons are where you need them to be, that they're lined up correctly. So from a UI perspective, this is what I want to do today. I wanted to present a preset 1, volume down, pause, volume up. And the next step is now to do some of the logical design for this. So this is where I have to show my stuff. You'll see there's a lot of other components that are available. Some of the other project templates go into detail in the documentation and the projects and make use of some of these. So they are available. I'm just trying as a level 1 lesson. Let's get through and let's just try a little section here and have some success and have something that you can play around with, and then work towards other projects in the future. So first of all, I'm going to go to the logical design. There's a little mini view here. I find it not too helpful for me, other than if I get totally lost. I turn this console on the top right. It's sort of like a debugger, and we're going to use that at the end. So you can actually see once you press a button, you'll see the data information flow that goes through, and that helps if I've made a mistake at the end. If we go on the top right side, we have underneath the system module. These are the logical modules we're going to bring onto the page. First one is I'm going to expand the UI and bring a couple of UI actions in. And there they are. I drag them in, and then I am going to use data processing and command. I'm going to do a couple of commands. And there we go. I'm going to be doing about 12 buttons in total. So from the data processing standpoint, I'm going to bring something called a string joiner, because we're going to actually compose on the fly using parameters and constants the API commands. And the reason we do that is that actually enables you to use less of these modules to complete the project. So you can do that. You can also click on these units and create yet another one, so you don't always have to drag across. And the next thing we have to do is, from, I think it's a network standpoint, we need some API commands. These boxes open up to the side because they're meant for you to sort of fill in as we are going, but I want to display everything that we're going to use in this project. And so I just did a copy and paste there. And I'm just going to drag these down, create a little bit of spacing for now. We're going to clean this up at the end, but just going to, if you click on a module and then hit Control and scroll your mouse, you can see we can go in and out in terms of this. So I'll make it as big as I can here. Now, the next thing that I do, and again, I do these for a reason. You can always skip this step, but you're going to get into trouble. And that is, I like to name the boxes. And that really helps keep things in line, especially when you're doing lots of presets and you get into lots of boxes. It really helps to have these boxes named. So what you do is you double click where the title is, and you can see you get a white box. And I just scroll back over top and I replace with what I want. And these are the executables are going to come out of that box. In this box is where I'm going to be entering the IP address of the primary player that I want to control, or speaker. And this one is really, I'm going to, because we're using presets, I'm going to pick different numbers for that. We're going to start off with 1 in this example, and I'll expand a little bit if I get lucky. The string joiner, we have, remember, 4 buttons, so we have 4 APIs we're going to create. And the first one, remember, is preset. So I'm going to call that preset string joiner. I'm going to double click on this one. I'm going to call this one volume minus string joiner. And this one, I'm going to double click, and we're going to call it pause string joiner. And this one will become volume plus string joiner. And then from an API perspective, I'm going to now do the same thing over here. I'll call that the preset API. Call this the volume minus API. This one is the pause API. Not very good at doing capital P's, apparently. And then this one is volume plus API. So these are the total number of boxes and modules in the logic design that we're going to need today. And so it ends up being a fairly straightforward plan. But naming these boxes and everything is really going to help, as I say, and keep you organized. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of magic. Remember, in the UI design, with these 4 buttons, we numbered them 1 through 4. And the reason we did all that and we named them properly is because now when you come to the UI action buttons and we add some more lines here, we go to the plus sign, we click, and look at magic. There are our 4 buttons, 1 through 4, along with their names. We'll do the same for the button executable. I feel like a magician, Reza. And the next thing I do is I'm going to double click on this in0 parameter, and I'm going to enter the IP address of the primary unit that I want to control. And this is the unique piece. If I did this project and I had to do it for 200 stores, once I've designed the rest of the project and the rest of the logic, this is just the one box that I would be modifying, where I would be editing the IP address for the primary speaker in that outlet. And so I just used the same project, just rename the project name to store 1, store 2, store 3, change the IP address in this one box, and I'm done. So that's an important box. And any of my projects that you'll see that you download, you need to edit the IP address so that you will be able to control player with the project. In this one here, remember we're going to do preset 1, so I'm going to provide that data point in there. So I just put the 1 in. Now the next part that comes along, I have to pay a little bit of attention here. I'm going to now create some multiple lines here for parameters. We need a few parameters for the preset, and we need less for these others. And what they are is we're going to compose the API. And the first thing I'm going to do is change this to a constant. And I'm going to enter some information here, which is just from a syntax perspective, what it requires to compose the URL. And I'm going to do that, and hopefully I do it correctly. One thing you can do is you can say, well, hey, I can't even see that. So we can get a little bigger here. Again, I'm just highlighting a box, using the control key on my laptop here, and then using the scroll on my mouse to zoom in, if you will. Equally, I can go on the control key and I can back out, or I can go in. It just helps see this a little bit better. So anyways, we're there. I'm just going to add a few more characters. I'm just going to take one quick last check here, because I'm going to take a risk here, and I'm going to copy and paste this because we use the same prefix in all the string joiner commands, and I just want to make sure I got it right. Looks good. Okay, so I'm going to cheat here just to speed things up so you're not all watching me night long. I'm just going to copy and paste that. Again, I'm going to go in this parameter 0, change it to a constant, enter that prefix, and do the same down here. Click constant, paste in that constant, and away we go. So now we've done the 4 string joiners on their prefix. And then what's going to happen here, I've kind of zoomed in so you don't see, in this API command, you have the prefix, and then we're going to program in the IP address. Is going to come sliding in as parameter 1, and then parameter 2 is going to be the next part of the API command. So it's going to be the port number and preset and ID equals, and that's where it ends, because remember, we're going to have a variable for the ID number. And so we're finished with that. And we also, on the last fields, we have the ID 1 is going to, the number 1 is going to come in on parameter 3. And on the last one, the constant is just the sort of a suffix. It just ends the statement, and with the brace bracket, and then we're done. So that the preset string joiner is now fully composed, and we're going to come back and do the preset API, but we'll just drop down and do the other presets string joiners first, the other string joiners first, and then do the APIs in turn. So in this one, again, we had the prefix for the API command. Parameter 1 is going to be the IP address coming in, and now we're going to create a new constant at the end here. So this is for the volume minus command. Again, we're going to use the port 11,000. The command is volume, and in decibels, we're going to say, hey, every time we hit the key, let's go down 2. You can change that to whatever you want. I just did that for this. You can make it 5. Going to 10 is kind of excessive, but you can go in and modify this if you don't like what's going on. And then I need to, if you have grouped units to this one unit, you need to tell the other units to change their volume too, and that's what this tell slaves command is, equals 1. We'll make that happen. And so that's, I just put in by default whether the speaker is grouped or not, because you don't have to go back and edit it later. So there, we've got that one entered. Now let's go down to the pause. Again, we have the prefix here in parameter 0. Parameter 1 is the variable, be the IP address coming in. And then on the last one, we're now going to end the constant here for pause. And again, 11,000, and this time it's pause. You got to get that capital in there, and then pause, and end it with the brace bracket, and we're done on that one. And now on the volume plus, again, the prefix, we have our IP address coming in, and now we need to edit this field, change it to a constant. And in this one, we go back to our good old port 11,000, our volume command, and it's going to be slightly different here because we're going to go plus 2, and tell slaves equals 1, and end statement. And so now we've done all 4 string joiners. Now let's create the APIs, and the APIs are kind of a placeholder for what we've fully composed, and we're going to bring it into the preset to the APIs. In this case here, we're going to build that. So what we do by default, it says null. We're going to replace that URL, and we're going to put what the URL that we want. So in quotations, it's HTTP, and my IP address. Again, this is a placeholder IP address. I'm just happening to use the same one, but it doesn't matter if it changes from site to site. This one does not matter. It gets replaced. So just a placeholder, but it's got to be the correct format. It's got to match what you had in the string joiner in terms of format. If it's different, it won't work. So there we go. We have the API. We go save, and it's all ready to go. We'll go down to this one, same idea. I'll just highlight the null, and I'm going to change this to and the port number. Volume dB equals -2, and equals 1, and that's composed. And we're going to go to the pause, same type idea, and by the time I get through this, you'll all be familiar with how to do this. So this is why the API listing is so important, because this is, at the end of the day, this is what you are sending out from the unit, and you control your Bluesound device. So there we are with the port, and this one's a little simple. We're just going to pause. and save that. And now we go down to the last one. I'm probably glad that I'm now on the last one. Got the port number in, and volume TB equals +2 until just go sleeves equals 1, and we're done. Now I'm going to back out for a sec so we can see what we've got here. I'm just going to move this over and do my best to make it as big as possible, because I recognize that I'm going to make my console a little smaller here, and I just moved over here. The next part's just kind of important. I want you to be able to follow through. Reza, is that okay? Can you see that okay? Or does it need to be bigger? Reza's.
Sorry, just had to unmute. You know, it looks good. You could probably make it a touch bigger. But
Okay.
actually, no, we can see it all. We have a good view of the whole thing.
There we go. I think I got it. There we go. A little bigger. So on the left-hand side, we've got our button commands, and we're going to send them to the commands here with the IP address and our preset number. We have our string joiners that are going to put together the strings with the information, and it gets passed on to the actual APIs. And that's the whole logical portion of this project. The only thing we have to do is we got to join things together by sort of stringing things together. And the way you do that is you just go over top this little, you see this A1, you see a little square there. I just, with my mouse and my left-hand key, I press on it, and I'm just going to drag it over because we're going to need an IP address. So when I press preset 1, I'm going to send this IP address, and I'm going to send it to the preset API. Here is parameter 1. I'm also, by the way, going to create an extra command there that we're going to use for executing the preset. So that's the next thing that I'll do is I'm going to come in here. No, I'm not going to do that. We normally would do going down to the preset picker. I'm going to do the number 1, and I'm going to inject the number 1 there. So you can see with the prefix, the IP address, the rest of the string, and the number 1, and then the suffix, we end up with the full preset API command. And then what I do with that is we take the output and we set it into the preset API in the request, and that for that button fully executes that. Once I go like this, and I create the execution of that command. So I'm using this bottom button. It's in parallel to the top one, and that command goes through and creates an execution for that. So it knows to do that. So that is all the logic that's needed to create a preset. The next thing we'll do is, let's say we'll do the volume minus, a little simpler. We're just going to drag that over to the IP address. We're going to share that and grab that down into the parameter 1 here of the volume minus string joiner. And the only thing we've got left to do is we need to execute that. So I'm going to go like that. Eventually we'll make this a little straighter. And then we just go out from the string to the set and to the request. And that is all you have to do for the volume minus button. For the pause button, again, we're going to drag and go up to the IP address, getting kind of redundant, and come down and go into parameter 1 of the pause. And then we'll execute here with the pause, and then we go from the string to set and string to the request. And then for the volume plus, I'm going to go up to the IP address again, and I'm going to go from that down into parameter 1 of the volume plus, and then the volume plus executable, I go here, and then the string I set to the set and to the request. And lo and behold, we've now done the whole logic plan for this project. So at this point, we actually have hopefully a fully functional project. So again, what we're doing is we have 4 buttons. We want to see it work. I'm going to be able to show you the screen. But first, let's go here. It's important here you hit save. If you look up at that lesson 1 part 2, you see a little asterisk to the left of it, means you haven't saved the project yet. So once I save the project, it goes back into the folder that we set up, and you can see now it's saved. And now the important thing is we have to upload. Remember, we originally set up this project to talk to .149 CP200. And so that's what it's going to do here when I upload. And this is the unit here, just so you have an idea of the size. It's powered by PoE, and it's just a 4-inch screen. And I'm going to do an upload now, and we can, I have a little screen here in the bottom right. You can actually see what's going on with the screen. It's a duplicate here. And so you see that it's loading up. That's how you upload to the unit, and boom, there you go. So now you're looking at the screen of the project, and if it works, I'm going to, and by the way, when you first upload a project, sometimes it takes a couple of screen touches for it to catch. So don't think you failed on your project. Just be ready on the first push to have to maybe do it a couple times. Yep, so it worked fine. So there you can see the preset 1 is highlighted. I'm actually playing music. And I'm turning, you can probably hear the music get louder and louder because I'm hitting the volume up, or I can hit the volume down and it's getting quieter. And I can hit pause. I forgot, that's interesting. I forgot the pause button. That's what I get for copying. You see the highlight was blue. I really wanted to do red. So if you needed to go in and edit that, you just click on the button. We'll go to active, and you can see, yeah, I did blue. Let's click on red, and we can go through and upload the project again. And I'll just give you that view. The bottom right is the view. Now when you can hear the music maybe, and then if I hit pause, then boom, I get the red. So that just gives you a good feedback indication of what you're on right now. If someone says, I didn't hear any music, you can say, oh yeah, it's on pause, and then I can hit preset 1. Now, one thing I think would be kind of interesting on this, because it looks like I've got some time, I'm gonna do a couple variations, if you will, on this. So, you know, someone might say, well, having a preset 1 button is kind of boring. And what is preset 1? So one thing you can do is we can go, once you've highlighted that button, you can go to the little mountain thing here, and we can change the image. And we can change that to a little, and this is where you have to maybe resize. And I'm going to take out the word preset 1. So you could, for example, for your tune-in stations, use something like this, and away you go. So that's actually your preset 1 now is an icon. So you can do that, and you just do it till it sizes properly. By the way, in terms of how many buttons you can put on a screen, I always try and aim for around 100 pixels by 100 pixels minimum. Is a good rule of thumb. There needs to be enough material there for your button to push on the touch screen. Remember, it's a 720 by 720 touch screen, so you know it's not like you can put 200 buttons on one page. I am going to show you that you can create subsequent pages and therefore enable multiple zones in terms of control. That's kind of a neat thing that this does versus the CP100, is at the same time I can control multiple zones. So if you had a spa with a gazillion rooms, you could actually do a page for each room, and you could do all these controls for each room, all from one device. So as long as you're on the same subnet and all those rooms are on the same subnet, you can design that. I'm going to show you some of those examples. So but one other thing I'd like to do is, okay, someone says, well, one preset's kind of boring. Can't you do something more than that? Well, of course we can. You know, you're not stuck with one, you're not stuck with 5. You can do even 10 or more presets. Now, what I'm going to do, just for the sake of time, I'm going to change this logic. We're going to create another preset. So we'll call that preset 2. And so we're going to do the interlock ID again. I'm going to call it preset 2. I got to remember to do the button number down here. Sometimes I forget. We're going to call it button 5. From a logic perspective, I also got to remember to change the I'm going to change the font color to that. And got to remember, from an active perspective, when it's active, I want a border on it, and I want it to be blue like the other preset. And I'll change the font there to white. You have a lot of control there to be able to change colors and sizing and character fonts. So now I have 2 buttons here from a UI perspective. Now we got to go into the logic design and edit that. So now, because I set that up, if I hit the plus, lo and behold, there's preset 2, and there's preset 2 on that button. Now all I have to do is draw the line to the IP address, and we already got the preset set up, but what we have to do is set up another piece of information. We have to set up the number 2. And so what I do now with preset 2, I also want to go and get the parameter 2 and put that also into parameter 3. And then the preset 2 here, we're just going to go up and do the execute command. So the neat thing is, whether I press preset 1, then the correct parameters are injected into preset string joiner, or if I hit preset 2 button, which happens to be number 5 here, then I'll put the appropriate IP information in, which is the same, but I'm going to be putting in the number 2 instead of the 1 into the preset string joiner, and that gets sent to the preset API, and the ID number of the preset gets changed to 2. So the preset string joiner is pushing this information into the preset API. So once I've done that, then all I have to do is hit save again, and let's upload that, and we'll watch again in our bottom screen here, and we should have now a redesigned UI, along now with essentially 2 preset buttons, one being an image and one being the standard button that I had. So there you go. So if I want to play music, I hit that, and I didn't change the image. I should have done that for that. So it's a common mistake that you make. You see how it's a black image. What I need to do is I need to edit this when I go to the active mode, and you can see it's black. I need to also put in the icon that I have there. Again, if I save that and upload that, then make that change. I don't feel badly. There's always times where you've forgotten something or whatever. The neat thing is, from a UI perspective, you can see exactly what you did or didn't do. And then in a couple minutes, once I have this loaded up, by the way, now we're on preset 2, and you can see that that's highlighted, or I can go to pause. So you can see the interaction there. I'm going to preset 1, or I can go to pause, or I can go to preset 2. So now, if you wanted to do 5 presets or 10 presets, you really just do exactly what I just did. You create more buttons, you go to the logic table, and you add, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and away you go. So it's pretty simple to add those. You'll see a lot of that in the project templates, because I used a lot of 10 preset ones in the project templates. So I'm going to put that back on pause, and I'm going to one thing I do on the logic design, it looks a little messy. I always try and tidy these things up a little bit, so you can highlight all these, and you sort of can bring the lines together. You can, if you align things up like this, because there is a grid there. Logically, it doesn't do anything. It's just probably good form to try and line these things up a little better. And so that's what I do with these things. Do that. You could also, now that you've seen how this all goes together, you can bring these in. And I just created a bit of a problem. There we go. Sometimes if you bring these together, it's a little trick. It will put the boxes together, and I really didn't want that. So you can do that and just straighten these up a little bit, straight across. You can see it makes it a little neater, and then we can back out. And I mean, that's your whole logic project for this. Fairly simple. Your UI design, and away you go. One thing I wanted to show too with this, as we're getting towards time, and you might have some questions soon, which is great. I'm just going to go and I'm going to bring in a couple other examples. So here's a more involved project, because you say, well, hey, you know, I need to control more than one zone. Here's an example where, and this is one of the project templates that's up on the web page. I created 5 pages to this project. This project has an opening screen. Effectively, when the user clicks on or touches this screen, opening screen, it will go to this control zone 1. And there's 10 presets. There's a slider with the volume in it, along with page navigation to go to the other zones, a little branding in the middle, and then just an indicator here saying what zone you're on, and then a pause button if you want. So I did that for each zone, and I just color coded them. You can see the different colors. So you can do all that. Each one of these zones can be logically set up. I'm just gonna zoom out here for a sec. And be set up. There's 4 blocks of information. That's one for each zone. So each of those uses the unique buttons for each zone. If we go into this zone 1 here, I'm just gonna get into this just so you can see it a little bit more. You can see here on the left-hand side, we have because we're using 10 presets, it's just a whole bunch more buttons. I have a pause in there. We have a special slider function. I have, and this is, I'm just going through the functionality. It's not meant to be a basic learning task for today, but just to show you, I have a timer to go back to the home page that you can set up. So in 60 seconds, it goes back to the home page. I have page navigation set up here. So when you hit a button to go to a different zone, it goes to a different zone. Again, you'll see here the string joiners that we just talked about, along with API commands. So kind of the same theme. Note the IP address here, .96. Let's go over to zone 2. So I'm just gonna drag over to that. You can see here in the middle box, see how the IP address is different. So that's how we designate using a different unit. So I'm using different button numbers. You can see now I'm up in the 60s here. And I have my 10 presets, but a different IP address. But I don't have to change any of this other logic just because I'm in a different zone. So when I went around to the other zone here, I have different buttons, yes, but then I just changed the IP address to .115 in this case. The neat result is I end up with a 5-page 4-zone unit here, and I literally could do more zones if I needed to. I have a customer that was interested in something a little more extravagant, so I worked on this the other night. And so this one here, they wanted to control 15 spa rooms. So they only have 3 presets that they need, and I put in a pause button. I haven't fully lined this up. I just kind of mocked it up. You want it to, and it has 4 volume controls, one for the first 4 rooms, and then it has page navigation to go to the next range of rooms 5 to 8, which is represented here, or 9 to 12, or 13 to 15. And then I have a screen here that I'll make as being their home screen. So I just haven't put that, I haven't done the logic on this, but again, you can do that, but remember, you can't go crazy. I couldn't put 15 rooms on one page. The buttons would be way too small, and then you'd have problems with functionality. But just to show you that, you know, in this kind of application, you can do that. So they're kind of excited. They were CP100 thinking people, but they had a problem with end users just going wild using the Bluesound app and ungrouping units and doing all sorts of things, and the integrator was fit to be tied. And this solution is just perfect for them, where they can have the spa manager control the rooms, and the hotel front desk now is only going to be controlling the front lobby units with a 1 zone unit in effect. And so it divides it all up and provides a great solution for them. So you'll see this, you'll see other possibilities, other project capabilities on the templates that I have. For example, PIN number, people ask about that. So you can go through and have to enter a 4-digit number to access the control screens. So that example is up there, I think, on the burger example. So lots of different things that can be done with this. Most of the time, the answers are going to be yes rather than no. It's just a matter of composing it. Okay. So I guess, yeah, I'm ready for some questions now. Or you have some questions, Graeme, or others do?
I put some in there, but if participants have them, you can answer theirs first, but those are the ones that occurred to me.
Okay, so you had a question that a preset API box set screen doesn't actually do anything. Well, it does. It just shows you an example. So what I'll do from, if we go back to it in the logical design, if I pick the preset API, and you see the box number is M8. If I type in M8 at the bottom, so this is the debugger for it, I clear that. Now, if I hit preset API, you'll see what comes out of the preset API is the actual API. So the set and request is a fully composed API going into it, and what comes out is a match to that, and that goes off to the Bluesound player as a command. One thing to do if you're ever having trouble with your API commands, that from the HTTP section on, you can, without the brace brackets, you can take that command and paste it or try it in your Chrome browser that's on your laptop on the same subnet as the Bluesound player, and you can actually test to see if your API command works. So whether you're in the Chrome browser or whether you're here, you can execute the API command. But that is basically what it does. The preset string joiner puts it together, but the preset API is what puts it up on the as a command API, Graeme. And so, yeah, and so even though it's a placeholder, it gets replaced by the string joiner and comes out. So you can see if for example, I did preset 2, even though it's the same box M8, you can see now that the last character changes and now the 2s are sent to it. So even though the preset API is placeholder is ID equals 1, what actually comes out now is the 2, because we pushed the IP address, the 2, through the string joiner and into the API command, and out it came.
I suppose my question is, you've kind of answered it, but that text that you put in that set box, that's just reminding you what the fully composed thing is going to be. It's actually composed by the blocks in front of it. Is that right?
Yeah, it's composed. It's almost like email confirmation. You know, they say, "Are you sure?" You type in the email twice and it comes out. It's almost like that kind of thing. If you get one or the other doesn't match, then it won't work.
Oh,
So
okay.
so if I had changed, if the format, even if I put, let's say, a pause command into the preset string joiner, and yet the API was a preset API, it wouldn't work because there's not a match there between the two.
Got it. I understand. You've got a real question now, so they're more important than mine.
Real question. What do we got here? IP addresses. Yeah, so the IP addresses, if you use your Bluesound controller app, you'll find you can go into the diagnostic settings of each player, and so on the Bluesound app, I can show you, for example, if this is my B400S, let's just pick something a little more straightforward. Let's say BSP200. If I go into settings, I can, there's two different ways of doing it. The quick way for this particular player, I go into help, diagnostics, and there is the IP address 10.0.0.96. That's what I was using for this demo. The other way to do this when you're using the PC app is you can go into settings and go into custom installation, and you can see all the room names that way. But also within the help, when we go into diagnostics, there is the listing of the other players here. It says other players, and there's all your other IP addresses. So you have 2 or 3 different ways that you can get an IP address for the players. And being on DHCP, for example, you got to watch and make sure they don't change. Sometimes, you know, if you're using a Crestron or a Control4, they make you change to static IPs because they program their control interface to go to a specific IP. And if you have a lot of units on your network and you have power offs and back on, your router might serve different IP addresses to your existing players, and then that will cause you issues. So one way to be absolutely sure that your controller, in this case the CP200, is going to have a match to your player is setting a static IP on your player or speaker. So those are the different ways to get the IP addresses, and I hope that helps.
But I think the question's, can you use host names and not IP addresses? And I think the answer is no.
Sorry. No, you can't. No, that in Crestron, they sort of do that, but my Crestron lead says he does not recommend that. He is a very advanced Crestron programmer, and they do use like names, and he just definitely says that is not a good idea. So, so technically other control systems use host names, but it's definitely not recommended. For us, it's got to be IP address. Sorry, I missed on the question thing. I only saw the last part.
Okay, maybe we can ask my next question then, which is, what's that sub page on the UI screen?
I don't know. I've never used it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've never used subpage. I've never used Windows, so I don't know. I use these and I create a new page, and I call it whatever.
Question page.
Yeah, Graham's question page, and just keep creating new pages, and away it go. But I don't know what the subpage is. Maybe there's a subpage that you can have attributed to one, but I just do use normal pages.
Is there a manual for this software so that, like?
No, that's why I had to come up with my own reference manual. Now, I say that most of this is online. So let's go into the logical design. So let's say preset API. What in the world is that all about? So if I click on the box, see the little question mark in the bottom corner? That gives you the information about that module. So that's it's sort of an online help thing for the module information, not for the UI design, but for the module information. So I X that out. If I do that for the preset, for the string joiner, same thing, it gives you the information about what you're doing on that. And the same with the buttons, you just do that and it gives that kind of information. So it's kind of online for the logical design. For the UI design, there really isn't any information. Here, it's just got to be sort of self-evident on the right-hand side. And I know it's not perfect, but some of you benefited from my just trying different things. And I've been able to find stuff out. So for example, I think on the spa example, you see here on this item, no one told me that if you go to this little button right here called show text, I get the actual volume on that. You see, we're clicking it on and off. And I was busy designing in, you know, an extra volume numeral beside it and all this. And then one day I discovered, oh, show text, and boom, there it is. So I said, okay, I didn't know that.
And that just automatically goes between 1 and 100.
That's correct. And you can set the default for this. So where you want to start, you can do that. So when it first comes up, it's at 50 or whatever. And then you set the range min and max from 0 to whatever. Where I find this, and I'm just going a little off topic and a little advanced, there is a progress bar that I'm just dragging on here. Just excuse its look. One thing for the progress bar, there is a min and max, and that I find is not, it's not dynamic, it's kind of static. So if you say the maximum, I do around 300, it depends on the length of track, right? So some tracks are, of course, a different length than others. It'll show you more or less the progress through the track as you go, but it's not exact. So the progress bar, sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. It's kind of a neat idea. I mean, you see progress bars when you're using Bluesound here. You'll see the progress bar here in the middle. So you can sort of replicate that. One other thing that I'm a little over time here, but just to give everyone a chance on this, I'm going to go back and one thing we showed recently at CEDIA was an application, again with our presets, our volume bar. I did a couple different variations with multiple rooms on the, you could do just volume controls for the different rooms. And I also did ones with icons, just make it a little interesting. And the other thing that I'll do, and it won't, unless I upload this, I also did a now play screen. So we now have the capability to display what's actually playing, just like you would in Bluesound here, which is what I call a now playing screen, where you see the album art. So you can actually now bring in the album art and have it come up in the CP200, and you could leave that as your default screen if you wanted to. So all that is capable within it. So it sort of helps give purpose to having a color display and making it all work. But for my lesson thing, I wanted to keep it somewhat simple today. I want everyone to sort of go in, play with this, create some simple buttons like this. We're recording the session today, and just play it back and learn how to do this, do a simple project, and then eventually get into some of the project downloads that we have on our webpage, and then maybe go crazy with that in time. But take sort of walk first before you run in learning how to use this. I don't want you to get frustrated or anything because it can be very straightforward. Make use of the console at the bottom. When you're having issues, you can type in specific box numbers here and see what's going through. You know, did you get the full API command out here, or are you missing the IP address? Maybe you forgot to draw a line. It's very useful to do that and have this console feedback. Any other questions?
Yeah, just type them in the questions page if you have any. Unfortunately, they've all got their mics off, so we can't tell whether they're snoring or not.
It's almost time for me to snore soon.
I know, it's late your time.
It's a challenge to cover the world, but we do our best. It's hard to keep Reza up at this hour too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, you
I don't know if some of you are aware, but Reza joined us. What was this past year now? Is it Reza? You've been with us in a support role?
Yeah, just over a year.
Yep, doing a great job supporting our support requests, and I think a net result is as responsive as we can be. I know in some parts of the world with the time difference, it's a little bit of a challenge, but I think we're a little more on top of any support requests that we have, and Reza heads that up and handles that. You have anything to add, Reza?
No, I just hope everyone you know enjoyed the demo, and
you're in your pajamas, Reza, or can you?
I'm actually I'm not really, but I'm in my office and it's like the light, like it's dark, so I don't know if I turn on my camera if it's going to like be you won't even be able to see me.
Okay. I just thought it might be good to turn our cameras on so people could see us.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, I think we're done. We're almost at 8:15 my time.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. There's Reza.
Yeah, the lights are off. I had it the sunset while we were doing this, so it went from light to dark. So I didn't get up to turn on the lights.
It just shows we're not using an AI version of Reza.
AI.
A real person, right?
Well, I was thinking I should use a CP200 and maybe let it use the APIs to control my lights, right? And then I could just turn it on from here.
Oh, that's
actually, yeah. One thing about our CP200 is the APIs are not restricted to Bluesound. If you happen to have access to APIs for other products, you can use those. You can see simply in the API document, you can just drop that information in. And during the InfoComm show, Reza came up with an application where we're controlling our speakers and also media player at the same time. So we're showing videos of our products. And that was all done sort of like an advanced macro command, pressing one button and executing an API for players and an API for the media player at the same time. And so essentially you could do that for other lighting systems if you have access to your Philips Hue APIs or others that are base APIs, then you can take advantage of the CP200 to control more than just Bluesound.
Can you add delays in, Ross?
Yeah, I didn't show that. Sometimes I pride myself on not needing delays, but if I go to the logical design here, and you can go in and you can do time sequence, and you can do either a timer that I did for going back to the home screen, or I can bring a delay in here, and then I can just edit this in milliseconds. I can, do a big change, and there we go. Then I have a delay of that. So, for example, I could have delayed my preset command by that amount of time before it actually did it. So even though I've sent the information, it won't execute until that time delay has gone through. Sometimes it might help if you find someone else's device and their API command is a little slow because of latency in the network to respond, and you want to do things in a coordinated fashion. You can put in these delays to compensate for that. Or I had the timer here, and the timer was what I had set for basically changing the page navigation to go back to that home screen, if you will. One thing I realized is you can change the units. So this one you can do in seconds. I was busy dealing in milliseconds because I was used to the delay thing, and you can actually do seconds on the timer. So I did that, for example, on some. I did like a 60-second timer before going back to the home screen. So you open the control screens up for a minute, and even if someone doesn't touch anything, it goes back to the home screen. And then you could have a PIN number that protects the device from access. So you can, as the integrator, you can change that. You want 30 seconds, 90 seconds. It's neat thing about this is you can figure it to what you want. Anything else?
I'm going to ask how you put a PIN number in.
Oh, I gotta open that project. You'd do that to me, wouldn't you?
I would.
It's
I'm not
quizzing
going to
you.
get a bed yet.
I gotta remember which one it was, so I apologize if I bring up something that's wrong. Yeah, I did do it right. So from a logical design, yeah, I have the password string. This one, 9425, is my password decision. You can see that on this screen here.
Mm-hmm.
So you just edit that if you want a different PIN number. And then I'm just gonna change the screen now. I believe this is one that it will work in. So here I have a burger. Yeah.
Burger's making me hungry.
Yeah, this one was an example that didn't work. So I apologize. I need to pull up. I think I need to go to yeah, this one's different. I'm just gonna drop some of these. You're allowed 5 projects open at one time, so I just want to make sure. I'll upload this one instead. I know the one that I put up on the web page works. So if this doesn't work,
One thing to add to, you know, we talked about passwords is the example we had at Infocom. The media player required as a software media player that you had a password in the API call, and we were able to do that in the headers in that API box. So, you know, if there's, for example, if you're working with a non-Bluesound device that requires that, we could accommodate that too. We were able to put in the username and password in the header, and it just pushed that right through.
I think I did a 1, 2, 3, 4. anyways, that's where you would enter it in, and it would go through to the control screen.
So on the screen
So
itself,
that's,
press that black button and
yeah, you press that black button and you'll get that keyboard up on the screen. And from that, you will enter your 4-pin number that you set, and then it will take you into this control screen. And then you can have a timer on it. I probably had a timer on this. Yeah, there's a timer here where it would go back to the main screen, and you'd have to enter the password again to get into it.
And is that a timer since the last command was issued, or a timer?
There's a timer period, and I can also put it in such at the last command. So that one, it gets a little messier, but any button push would get added to reset the timer and then give you a minute from that. In this example, just to make it quick and not so messy, it's basically giving you a minute period. As soon as you've gone to the control screen, you got a minute to do what you need to do, and then it returns.
I'm going to stop asking questions now.
You got to stop making me do demos that I wasn't prepared for. I could have kept that up.
You pass.
Committed to download the software yet, and he's asking all these software questions.
I know. How you doing, Craig?
I'm good. My AI is my picture. Now it told me I have to download the software for the camera or whatever, change path settings and then reload it. So I just look around.
Yeah, the GoToWebinar is a little challenging for me, but I know the pathway to make it work. Anyways, we've dragged on here to about 8:20, but a lot of people have hung in there with us. So by the looks of it, Graeme. But I didn't know. Is anything else, Craig? Do you have any questions for me?
No, super excited to go. A few customers have been playing around with it in the beta. We have several customers that pre-ordered. I think it's a really good fit.
Yeah, the people who have pre-ordered, they should be receiving the units maybe Friday, Monday. Hopefully they shipped. They went out today, so I asked them to. Actually, they should have shipped probably. Well, different people say, "Are they ready to ship? Are they ready to ship?" So it was probably today they went out. But anyways, I was glad the units got over to Europe and that this week, so we should be all set.
I actually do see a question that came up here.
Okay.
Craig,
Down the road from me.
you had something about the vessel wall mount. If the wall mount is a standard.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not Visa, and that's why we put one in each unit. And it's basically the 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inch hole. Oh, I forgot if I held my prop up, but this is what you look like. This is a sample piece of drywall, if you will, with the mounting bracket in, and the hole that I made is just a square. It's 95 millimeters by 95 millimeters, and you just put the bracket in and engage the dogs like you would on a speaker, and then you just take the CP200 and you just basically snap it in like that, and there's your unit. And then you've pre-connected your Ethernet cable in behind, and away you go. And it's a little hard to get it out once you've had it when it's fresh. I tried one of the new ones. This one is a 3D printed early production, but the actual ones that come with the unit have been tooled, and it snaps in, and you need basically a screwdriver to get it back out. So once you put your Ethernet cable in this and you put it in, it snaps in rather tightly on the production units, and away you go.
That's good. You wouldn't want them falling out or people pulling them out.
If you pull it out, put it in, pull it out, take it in like 10 times or so, then you start, things wear. But I did find that the actual production unit's a much tighter fit than even what I did on my printer, so which is good. It was a real positive feel on that, so it's good to see. Anyways, so I hope that's good. And I think we'll probably end off now.
All right. Good night, everyone. Good morning to all of those of you in Australia and New Zealand.
Yep, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Reza.
Okay, take care.
Right.